Alright, hello everyone. Almost tripped on the lights again. I feel like I'm sitting higher up than usual. Strange. Alright, so let me get to the chat. Turn on the kettle. Yes. Alright, so let me get to the comments. First of all, thank you, Nick. Nick says, "Hey, Alex, I'm not sure if I'll be here. Had a day at work and I'm exhausted. I did book a short Queen Mary 2 cruise today, so that cheers me up. Have a great stream, and I'll be here next time." Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. Let's see. Weather today is kind of warm. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the weather today. I have my air conditioning on, which is... It's funny, it's only 80 degrees outside, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which isn't normally enough for me to turn on the air conditioning. But it must be like extra humid or something, because it feels hot. It feels really hot. So, alright. Spirit of Roanoke says, "Hey Alex, remember me?" Sorry, I don't. Let's see. Hello, Amtrak fan. Thank you so much, Spirit of Roanoke, for the water tower compliment. Tea time. Pacific says, "Did you get a haircut?" Yes, I gave myself a haircut last night. It was getting a bit long. Fallon Will says, "Hey Alex, what is the carnival ship next to Queen Mary called?" It changes all the time, so I really don't know. Hello, Amtrak fan. Daniel says, "Hey Alex, my mom made tamales and they were amazing." Oh, that sounds awesome. Every year during Christmas time, my father makes tamales, and so he makes amazing tamales. And as you know, tamales take forever to make, so yeah, but I'm looking forward to that this year. Maritime View says, "Hello Alex, wearing 50s casual again for the live stream while I sit out on the porch smoking a Colombian cigar." Wow, Colombian. Have I heard of Icon of the Seas? I might have, but I'm not really a cruise ship fan. Yeah. Rudolph Valentino says, "Hello Alex, I'm sick today, so this will keep me entertained for the afternoon." Well, I hope you feel better soon. Spirit of Roanoke, so remember how I asked about the rewiring of the steam train? Oh, was that you? Yeah, I do remember somebody asking about how I rewired the locomotive. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was years ago that I rewired it. I don't really remember how I did it. I just remember just going through the whole thing, because I have a basic understanding of circuitry. So I kind of looked at the whole thing, removed... It had special wiring for plugging in a digital microchip, you know, like a microchip board. And I didn't need it, so I had to figure out what wires control the powertrain of the locomotive and what wires control the light on the front. And so I just took that and rewired it to where I need it to be, so it doesn't have to work on a I don't know what to call it, a microchip board, you know. So yeah, that's all I did. If I had to reverse engineer it to make it run on digital again, I don't know how I would do it, because that is too complicated for me. So All right. So we are going to preheat the teacup and teapot. Any updates on the RMS Queen Mary, asks Amtrak fan. Unfortunately, there are none. Everything that's happening is happening behind the scenes, so there's nothing that I know of when it comes to the updates to the Queen Mary. I know people were getting really used to getting their monthly updates from me, but honestly, everything that's happening is happening inside the ship, so there's really nothing more than what I've already revealed to everybody. Sometimes I really wish I could see where the water line is in this teapot, because it's so, I know it's like hard for me to describe, but I literally cannot tell where the water is in the teapot. So I don't know if I'm overfilling it or not, and I always overfill it. Alright, let's see. Let's get this cleaned up. Alright. Put that over here. Probably further back so you guys don't see it. Okay, so we'll let that kind of preheat. Maritime Review says, what's your opinion on the movie Ghost Ship? You know, I haven't seen it since the movie came out, so I really don't remember it at all. I remember it had some areas filmed on the Queen Mary, but that's all I remember. It's so fuzzy in my memory. Trying to... okay. Hello, Ryan. Moonzer asks, was RMS Queen Elizabeth's design the same as the Queen Mary's? So, no. In the end, no. But originally they were supposed to be sister ships. When they were both essentially designed in 1929, and they were going to be sister ships. But after the construction of the Queen Mary, because you also have to remember Queen Mary, her construction was paused for 2 years. And in those 2 years, Cunard made some adjustments to the Queen Mary based off of things that they felt were necessary, such as replacing the concept of using all double-ended Scotch boilers with 24 Yarrow boilers. And so things like that were altered in the 2 years Queen Mary's construction was paused. And then there was also, when the Queen Mary began operations as an ocean liner, there were things that they felt that just needed to be adjusted or changed, or things that could have been done better. And so what they did was, when they were getting ready to, once again bring up the plans for Queen Elizabeth, they had made some alterations into the interiors of the ship, into the propulsion system, which means mainly the boilers, not the actual engines. They looked at all these things, and they felt that changes needed to be made. And so that's what they did, because they had plenty of time to consider it. A lot of times when sister ships are built, they're built exactly one after another. And so there's really very little time to consider changes. And so that's why they often end up being almost exact replicas of each other. But Queen Elizabeth, they had a lot of time to consider what changes were probably necessary to be made. And that's the changes that they made. Now, not all the changes were things that ocean liner fans like, just various things, like certain rooms on Queen Elizabeth were much larger and they feel much more grand, but then a lot of other rooms on the Queen Elizabeth were smaller and a lot less grand. And so there's things like that that kind of bother some ocean liner fans such as myself. But technically, no, they were not They were not designed the same. Okay. So, I know last time I did a tea time, we did Earl Grey, but I really felt like Earl Grey again today, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Just leave that there. Okay, so let's see. Earl Grey is the tea today. Daniel, your question about sinking ships, I don't like that question. I don't think it's appropriate. Pacific says, I'm listening to some 70s airline music while watching. Feels nice. Awesome. Mark says, hi, Alex. How are you? Lovely to see you with shortbread. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing really good. Just, a lot to do. I wanted to have my video about the Ursuline Convent out on Tuesday, but that's not going to happen. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that video in time. This is the second time I've had to postpone the video. So I guess Tuesday we'll just have some other video, some random topic that I'll just put up or something, and then I'll just try to get the Ursuline Convent video done by Friday. There's so many unexpected things that happen in my everyday life. Like, I wish I could operate on a schedule. I wish I could say, okay, this is my schedule every single day for the whole week. But then random stuff happens throughout the week that I really need to attend to, and I can't account for. And so then it pushes all my videos, like, in all kinds of directions. And then, of course, the other, like, variable factor is when people don't watch the videos I produce, then that means I got to produce a different kind of video next time. So if I predict that, you know, if I put out a video, let's say on a Tuesday, and I think this is going to be a really popular video, and then I can do a video for Friday that's less popular, then I can kind of work things out that way. I like to go popular video, less popular, popular video, less popular. That way it kind of evens out the viewership on the channel so the channel doesn't take a dive. Well, what happens is sometimes I put out a video that I think will be really popular, and then it is dead. No one watches it. And then that means that the video I had planned for Friday, which was supposed to be unpopular, I can't do anymore. And then I have to switch everything out and then rearrange my plans, which also means, like, sometimes I'll work for days doing research on something, and then I'll realize, like, well, now I have to put that project aside to make something that I think will make up for, a failed video. And so, and it's necessary to do that, because if I keep producing videos that people don't watch, the YouTube algorithm will not promote my videos anymore. None of them. So I have to appease the YouTube algorithm sometimes. So, yeah, that explains why a lot of times I say I'm going to make a video, and then I have to change everything and say, okay, that video is not coming out when I said it was coming out. So there's just so many variables on a daily basis. Even yesterday, I thought I would have time to work on a video, but I was so busy yesterday, I didn't even have time to open the computer and, start working on a video. So, and today was pretty much that way too. After this live stream, I'm going over to my sister's for dinner. She really wants to hang out with me and stuff, and because we hardly, we live close by, but we never really get to hang out. So, yeah. Brian, yeah, I agree. I was pretty sad about hearing about Angela Lansbury and Robbie Coltrane. Both very amazing actors. And so, yeah, I will miss them. When I was a little kid, my grandmother and I, we would always watch, the newest episodes of Murder, She Wrote. Let me turn this on. Of Murder, She Wrote. And, that was kind of something fun that we did. We also watched that in between watching shows like Matlock and whatever. But yeah, and then the Harry Potter films were a part of my childhood, and so seeing Robbie Coltrane in each of the movies was, really, really nice. He, and I read the first two books, and Robbie really was Hagrid. Like you really believed he was the Hagrid from the books. But I've also seen Robbie in like other TV shows and things, and he's always the funniest character. All right, let's go ahead and pour this out. Gosh, I cannot see. I'm going to assume that's where the water line is. Alright, so Earl Grey, that's straight up boiling water, so I'm going to give that a minute to cool down. Fallon Wills, awesome. Good luck on that. Yeah, DCC chip. Thank you, Pacific. The Fat Hat says, is there any pictures of Queen Mary's crow's nest or lookout? I'm sure there are, but I don't have any. Yeah. Spirit of Roanoke. So what happened to the Queen Elizabeth? After she was retired, she went to Fort Lauderdale, Florida for maybe 2 years to be a tourist attraction. She didn't do well as a tourist attraction there, probably because it was in Fort Lauderdale. It wasn't even in Fort Lauderdale, to be honest. Fort Lauderdale was where the ship entered from, but where she was put at was at a different city. But in any case, she didn't do well as a tourist attraction, and so she was bought by C.Y. Tung, who was going to turn her into a floating university with a lot of her public rooms still intact. Unfortunately, during the conversion, for mysterious circumstances that people still debate today, the ship caught fire and it sank in the harbor of Victoria Harbor of Hong Kong. But I will stand by a lot of the historians who say that C.Y. Tung was not the reason why Queen Elizabeth caught fire. It was not sabotage by C.Y. Tung. He actually really loved the ship, and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, sent him a heartfelt letter expressing, their mutual love for the ship that had sunk. So even she knew that it was not his fault. BD Forever says, Alex, are you from the UK? No, I'm not from the UK. My family ancestry is, but not me. And not anybody in my close, circle of my family. Ryan says, she caught fire. 3 fires were intentionally started and she capsized in Victoria Harbor. Yeah. I never heard about 5 explosions rocking the ship. I do know that 3 fires were intentionally started, but I never heard about explosions. Daniel says, did Queen Mary ever star in movies and TV shows other than Poseidon? Oh, yes. All the time. Even last year alone, they used her for like 3 different productions. Don't ask me to list them all. There's so many. But, I mean, last year alone, they did the movie, Being the Ricardos was filmed on the Queen Mary. They filmed a horror movie that's coming out. Is it this year or next year? But there's a horror movie coming out that was filmed on the Queen Mary. That was filmed last year. And then also last year, they filmed the new movie that's coming out called Amsterdam. So that was also filmed on Queen Mary. And then there might have even been a TV show that was filmed on Queen Mary, to be honest. So yeah, like every year, at least 3 TV shows or movies are filmed on the Queen Mary. She's a very popular filming location because she still has a lot of her 1930s interiors. And so, you know, they like that aesthetic for a lot of like vintage TV shows and stuff. So yeah, like, yeah, all the time. Maritime View says, what do you think is the most generic looking ocean liner? Generic? I don't know. I suppose the SS United States, I think. But, I mean, I don't really know what a generic ocean liner would look like. Fallon Will says, Alex, is Queen Mary faster than Titanic? Absolutely. Queen Mary was faster than Titanic by, let's see, Titanic I think had a maximum speed of 23 knots. So Queen Mary was a maximum speed of 32. So yeah, about 9 knots faster. Yeah, 9 knots faster than Titanic at their fastest speeds. Yeah. And then Queen Mary's cruising speed, you know, the regular service speed, was 28 to 29 knots, which was still faster than Titanic's, which was about 20 or 21. So, yeah, she was way faster. And much larger, too. Spirit, yeah, she was scrapped. She was scrapped in Victoria Harbor by the Japanese. Fallon Will says, what happened to the SS Hercules video? I don't know what that ship is. I don't know. I never said I was going to make a video about a ship called SS Hercules. Amtrak fan says, what time is it for you? For me, it is 4:27 p.m. Yeah. Jimmy says, if you could ask Cunard any questions, what would you ask? The funny thing is, I have a contact for Cunard, but I don't have any questions to ask them. I did ask questions when I first talked to the person. I know the HR person for Cunard, and I asked some questions, and they said that they would get back to me with some answers. So Cunard has helped with some of the research of my videos, but they don't help very much. I don't know whether it's because they simply just don't have the information to pass on, or maybe they just don't have the time to pass on the information. But yeah, so I mean, I've asked questions, but I mean, there's not really anything to ask Cunard. I mean, I think people forget that Cunard is not very interested in history. They're interested in now or the future. They're a modern company. They specialize in building and operating the latest ocean liners and cruise ships. So they're not really interested in talking about the past or showing off the past. You know, they're proud of their heritage, but it's not like the company like Disney. Disney, for instance, is always rehashing its own history to show off like antique things, and they have Disney has roaming museums that they've done in the past where they take stuff out of archives and they show it off at museums. Cunard doesn't do that. Cunard barely saves anything of their heritage. Again, they're not interested in talking about the past. They're interested in talking about the future because that's what they do. So, so I think there's a lot of people who actually don't know that about Cunard. So Cunard is proud of their heritage. They do keep a few artifacts and things, and and they do have a historian that works for them, but the company as a whole doesn't really like delve deep into their history. So, when I went and contacted them, it really wasn't their top priority to talk about the history. Their top priority is like booking trips, So, I'm in Oregon. Has it already been 5 minutes? Wow, that felt like literally 30 seconds. I feel like it's been 30 seconds since I put the tea into the kettle, and it's been 5 minutes. That is so weird. So I'll just stir that around to make sure all the tea is incorporated. Okay. Now we will actually move this over here. Come on. Move. Oh, jeez, of course. I don't want to burn myself on this thing. Alright, there we go. There's like water all over the counter because I couldn't see the water line of the kettle, or the teapot, I mean, so. I don't know how they did this on the original Queen Mary. Like, how did they not overfill the teapots with water? How did they not do that? Because I do it all the time. I can't see where the water is. Alright. Let's put some sugar. Spirit says, can we see your locomotives run? Not right now, because I don't know if you have been following the channel, but... Of course, the stupid chair is not... Okay. I don't know if you've been following the channel, but the layout has been... kind of temporarily put under construction again, because I'm on the next phase of the building of the locomotives, and not the train set. It's on the next phase. So if you've been following the channel, I've been talking about how it's been, temporarily. What's the word I'm looking for? It's down for refurbishment. I don't know why I'm having so much difficulty finding the words. But yeah, so when will it be ready to run the next time? I don't know, because it really depends on how much extra time I have. Like I said, I've had to rearrange my schedule because some videos I put out were just not popular enough. So now I have to work extra hard and put out more videos and hope that those do better. So so the harder I have to work on videos, the less time I have to work on this thing. So we'll see when when the next time is that I'll be able to get this to run. I want to get it up and running as soon as possible, but it's yeah, I don't have the time. My father is moving up here this week. And my father's really good at building models and things, so I might have him help me to do some of the work so I can get it done twice as fast. Because, I like having a model railroad, and I'm really good at building it. I just don't like to build it. I don't actually find the building process fun. I like having the completed, the completed thing. So, so I actually don't mind if I'm not the only one working on it, because I really I want it done more than anything. So, But you know what? You might be new to the live stream, but what I do on these live streams is usually when the layout is running, it runs for the live stream. So when you do these tea times with me, there will be a window in the corner of the screen that shows you a close-up of the trains running. So the trains are usually always running in the background of my live streams. So so if you tune in the future, you'll see that when it's up and running. Every tea time, the trains will run. So, but yeah. Amtrak fan says, what will you do if you hit 1 million subs, Alex? Will it be another live stream? If I hit 1 million subscribers, it's going to be a massive celebration. Like, I'm going to go to another country kind of celebration. You know, lots of live streams, lots of videos, lots of specials, you know, things like that. But that 1 million subscribers, I don't think that'll ever happen for a channel like mine. Channels that get 1 million subscribers are like viral channels, like people like stuffing their faces with noodles kind of channels, you know. So history channels like mine, they don't get 1 million subscribers. I would be lucky if I got 300,000 subscribers, I would be lucky. So, so folks, if you're wondering why you've like put a comment in the chat and it's been like 10 minutes and I still haven't responded, it's because I'm 10 minutes behind looking at everybody's comments because people are writing comments so quickly. And yeah, I could slow them down. I could slow down the comments, but I can catch up to it real fast. It's not a problem. So just give me some time and I will get to your comments if it's something I should get to. Keep in mind, if you're going to comment something random, I'll read it, but it doesn't mean I necessarily have to respond to it because maybe you're not asking a question. So, so I'm going as fast as I can through the comments. Hello, Goofy Rolls. The Fat Has says, can you still go into the Queen Mary's propeller shaft? Well, no, the propeller shaft of the Queen Mary is only like maybe 10 inches wide. You know, a very tiny child could fit in there, but not a human being. The propeller shaft is very narrow on the inside. Big Boom Theory says, hey, Alex, if you could choose what year you would want to be born in, what year would it be? This might sound kind of dark, but if I was given the choice of whether to, you know, if God was like, hey, you know, pick your timeline, I'd be like, can I just not? You know, like, life is hard. If I had the choice to, like, be born or not be born, I'd say, don't let me be born. Like, life is really hard. No matter what century or timeline you're in, you know, I know a lot of people would be like, oh, well, Alex would pick the 1930s because of the Queen Mary. And you might be right. I do really love the 1930s. But the 1930s were really difficult times. You know, you had the Depression, and then you had, you know, the slow economies around the world. You know, you had all kinds of illnesses and ailments that today we have, you know, like shots for that you can get in your arm. But stuff back then could kill you, you know. You also had a lot of racism and prejudice. Being Hispanic myself, that would be kind of a big issue, you know. Maybe not as big as today, but still a big issue. You know, so things like that. Like, I would not want to be born in the 1930s. It'd be cool if I could, like, travel back in time for a day or two and maybe visit the 1930s. Some people have asked me what year would I go to Disneyland. I'd say, oh, well, you know, send me to Disneyland in 1974 or 1975. You know, that was a good year for Disneyland, you know, but I'd only want to be there for a day or two. So, you know, I'd want to be there for the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary in 1936. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be born in any other timeline. I don't even like the fact that, you know, the year I was born was in the 1990s. Like, I don't even like that, you know. Yeah. If God said, oh, well, you know, you have a choice, I'd just be like, yeah, can I just not be born? Like, that'd be really cool, you know. So let's see. Cauldron, cheese and crackers sounds fun. There's nothing wrong with cheese and crackers. Amtrak fans says, I think the reason why Queen Mary is haunted is because of the fire of Queen Elizabeth. Two different sides of the world, two different timelines. I don't think so. And frankly, I don't think the Queen Mary is really that haunted. Yeah. Daniel says, would you rather save the Lusitania from being torpedoed or save the Mauretania from being scrapped? I'd rather save the Mauretania from being scrapped. Because the Mauretania had a longer history, was a much more beloved ship. You know, I think Mauretania between the two was more worthy of being saved. Jimmy, the reason why I didn't answer your comment on the video about, you know, how long an ocean liner can last is because your question, and I'll read it out for everybody. How long do you think the Queen Mary could last if it didn't get repairs and people stopped going near it and pretend that the water is deep and the ship can sink? You know, I really don't know. That's why I didn't answer it. I really don't know. It's a very complex question. And I didn't want to give you like a fake answer like 5 years, or I didn't want to give you a fake answer like, you know, like 100 years, because I really don't know. It really just depends on the condition of the ship. Like, there's no way you can calculate how fast something will rot when the conditions change season by season, year by year. The variables are like all over the place. There's really no way to know unless you had a perfect environment that always stayed the same. Then you might be able to calculate when something would completely degrade. You know, they're able to calculate how long it will take the Titanic to degrade into the ocean at the bottom because, you know, the variables down there are almost similar year-round. And the degradation process they can plot on a chart, but, you know, up here on the surface of the world, it's really difficult to do that. I really don't know. I mean, look at the SS United States. I mean, you'd think that a ship would sink after 10 years of being neglected. SS United States is still floating. So, I really don't know. Yeah, it's a really complex question. RMS Cunard says, how could the Queen Mary fit inside the river in London? They'd have to dredge the river, and then they'd have to bulldoze the bridges. That's how it would fit. But otherwise it could not. Maritime View says, what do you think of Disney cruise ships? Honestly, I don't care for them, but definitely look a lot better than any cruise ship. I would have to agree. I don't care for them. I'm not a cruise ship person. I don't really like cruise ships. I think pretty much every cruise ship that exists is tacky in some way. Some are tackier than others. But when it comes to cruise ships, Disney cruise ships look a bit nicer, generally, than most cruise ships do. Just because, I don't know, they look more like ocean liners on the outside. And on the inside, they're not so bad, you know. They're not so tacky. I don't know any other word. So generally Disney cruise ships look better, but I'm not going to venture out far enough and say it looks good. You know, I just don't like cruise ships. You know, the closest thing to a cruise ship that I could say I like is the Queen Mary 2. The Queen Mary 2 is an ocean liner. You know, there is a very big difference in how it's constructed, but I suppose the reason why I would say that I think it looks good closest to a cruise ship is because on the interiors, the ship is basically a cruise ship. And it doesn't look tacky. So I like it, you know. Found Wills is going to Historic Travels Live. Awesome. Have a fun time. Big Boom Theory says, hey, Alex, what if Mauretania hits Titanic's iceberg? Would it sink? Absolutely. Sarah Palm says, I can see it now. Tea time and stuffing my face with noodles time for Alex. Exactly. Yeah. Pacific says, will you do other ships' history videos? Yes. But I can't do it on a weekly basis like some other channels do, because they've had years and years of knowledge to accrue. Like, they've had years to learn about other ships. I've only had 2 years, and I'm still new to ocean liners. So when I do videos about other ocean liners, like I did with Lancastria, like I did with SS Princess Louise, those are 2 ocean liners that I've covered already that are not related to Queen Mary. And it took a long time to research those, you know, because, you know, I'm new to ocean liners. So yeah, I will cover other ocean liners, but it will be on a very slow, like, you know, once occasionally basis, just because, again, you know, the other YouTubers, they've had years to accrue their knowledge, and I'm still very new to ocean liners. So, Ivan says, who had the better exterior between Olympic and Aquitania? That's not much of a choice, but I suppose I have to choose Olympic. To me, they look virtually identical, but yeah, I'd have to choose Olympic. Just because I don't like the way Aquitania's forward superstructure looks, and I don't like the big cowl vents that rise up high off the forecastle deck. So, and various other, like, things, you know, small things. Daniel Ramirez says, hi, Alex, did Queen Elizabeth II ever go on the original Queen Mary? Yes, Queen Elizabeth II was on the Queen Mary before she ever had her maiden voyage. Queen Elizabeth II and her sister Margaret, Princess Margaret, they were taking a tour of the ship that day with Queen Mary and her son, King Edward VIII. Her son, who would become King George V, or VI, I'm sorry, her son who would become King George VI was at the time the Duke of York, you know, and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, was at the time the Duchess of York. And so anyway, Queen Elizabeth II, who was at that time just Princess Elizabeth, she and her sister, they went to the first-class children's playroom, and they played around in there for a while, especially going down the slide. And Cunard even named that slide the Royal Slide, because the princesses had slid down it. The Spirit of Roanoke said, how did Cunard respond to QE's fire? I don't believe they had a response. You know, again, Cunard is not concerned with the past. You know, they sold the Queen Elizabeth. To them, it was just another ship after they sold it. Like, they didn't care. So, you know, if something happens to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, if the Queen Mary were to, like, catch fire or something and it would be completely destroyed, Cunard might put out a tweet and be like, so sad, this was our ship, you know. but Cunard really doesn't care. You know, they're not going to go out there and make efforts to help the cleanup or something, or you know, I can't stress enough. And the reason why I'm lingering so long on this is because I'm trying to let everybody know, like, Cunard is not like Disney, where Disney, you know, is obsessed with their history. Cunard, they have a respect for their history, but they are not actively obsessed with it. They really don't care what happened to Queen Elizabeth or what happens to Queen Mary. They really don't care. I mean, look at the last 2 years, you know, where there was all this uncertainty about what was going to happen to the Queen Mary. Cunard never so much as put out a tweet about it. They really don't care, you know. So, you know, because a lot of people ask me questions that are all related to that kind of stuff. What would Cunard do if this or that or this or that? And the answer is always the same. Like, Cunard really doesn't care, you know. It's those ships to them are the past. They're focused on now and the future, you know. Octarian asks, why is there no blueprint of Oceanic 3? They probably never got to the blueprint phase. Oh, no, they probably did, actually, because they were started building it, but I don't know. I don't know. Pacific says, do you think you'll collaborate or get some help / research from other people, like Historic Travels or Mike Brady from Ocean Liner Designs? Yeah, maybe someday, but I don't know. I never thought about it that way, but that also depends on, like, if they have the time for me, you know, or if there's something that we can collaborate on. Because I don't really talk about Titanic. Like, I refuse to really touch the history of Titanic on my channel. There are already a lot of people who can talk about Titanic way better than I ever could. Again, they have years of knowledge above me. Like, that is not a subject I want to even tackle unless I've been studying it for 5 years straight, at least. So, and I don't plan to do that. So, as for other ocean liners, you know, maybe Mike Brady has, you know, a lot of knowledge and stuff that he could share, but I've never really considered it that way. I have books, I have research. I don't know. Maybe if they wanted to, but yeah, I don't know. Dave and Jeanne Rose says, hi Alex, always good to watch your segments. We learn a lot about Queen Mary. Very interesting, from Wickenburg, Arizona. Thank you so much. Ivan says, really curious, do you prefer the open promenade deck on Olympic or the enclosed promenade deck on Titanic? I'll be honest, I really don't see a difference. Because it's not like Titanic's was enclosed all the way around. It was open, like, for 2/3 of the length of the ship. So, well, okay, no, it was like maybe half the length of the ship. But still, the point is, well, even the front was not enclosed. I'm looking at my model, but yeah, even the front wasn't enclosed. I really don't understand why they enclosed that part of the promenade. Like, to me, it seems like it doesn't make any difference. So yeah, I'm going to say I prefer Olympic then, because at least Olympic looks symmetrical all the way around. So, Daniel said, did the Queen ever go to visit Queen Mary in Long Beach? No, she didn't. Did the Queen Mary ever have a boiler fire? I'm sure she's had mishaps with the boilers. I wouldn't necessarily say boiler fire, but I mean, I'm sure there's been mishaps. But as far as I know, there's none that stick out in my memory. Yeah. Octarian says, if RMS Olympic was to turn into a hotel in 1935, then would James Cameron use that for the Titanic movie? I'm sure he would have. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure he would have. RMS Nerd says, "Hi Alex, just joining the live chat. Do you know of any recent updates on the reopening of Queen Mary?" No, unfortunately I don't. Daniel Ramirez says, "What does promenade deck mean?" So the promenade deck, I don't know what it means. A promenade deck on a ship is just the deck that's designated for taking walks around the length of the ship. They usually designated a spot that circled the superstructure of the ship for the passengers to be able to just take a walk. Because, you know, when you think about it, when you're inside of a ship, it's rooms upon rooms upon rooms, and you can't really just take a walk around a ship. You know what I mean? You're going through rooms, opening doors, and stuff like that. So it was important very early on for ocean liners to have a space where the passengers could take a walk and just stroll around the ship for, you know, multiple laps and stuff like that. So that's what promenade decks were for, and cruise ships don't always have that, to be honest. Even the Queen Mary 2, when the Queen Mary 2 was built, of course, Queen Mary 2 is an ocean liner, so anybody who's going to be like, Alex, that's an ocean liner. But nevertheless, when Queen Mary 2 was built, they gave her a semi-outdoor promenade deck, and that allows people to kind of take a walk around. I don't recall if the QE2 had a promenade deck. So maybe someone can tell me that. Spirit of Roanoke says, "Hey Alex, how much is your layout so far, and what was the price of the Forney engine, and can we see it run?" I already responded to somebody's... I thought you already asked that question. Again, the whole thing is under construction right now, so I can't run the engine. I can't run anything. There is stuff on the tracks. The tracks are not... there's like glue and stuff all over the tracks that has to be removed. There's like debris everywhere. I can't run it right now. It has to be carefully cleaned up with like, you know, hobby knives and, you know, and abrasives and stuff, like, and then of course there is literally construction happening around it, so there's literally stuff in the way. I can't run the engines for you right now. And then but as for how much it costs, the Forney engine, I bought it for $130. That is not a typical price. That was extremely cheap, and that's because the guy who sold it to me broken. So it was not functional when he gave it to me. And I suspect that he didn't think it could ever be functional. So that's why he sold it to me for that low price of $130. I managed to get it working. So that's why. But otherwise, that same engine could go easily for about $250 to $300. Seriously, it's that expensive. And as for the layout, how much it cost, I don't even know. The price is... I've probably spent closer to $800 over the last... What has it been? 4 years? I think it's been 4 years. Yeah, so it's probably been closer to $800. And it's only halfway done. So, yeah. Well, then again, I've purchased already the most expensive stuff, so it's not like the rest will cost another $800. But yeah, I've already bought the most expensive things. But yeah, I estimate maybe when it's all completed, I would have probably spent a grand total of maybe $1,200 to $1,600. So yeah, that is another $800. Could be. That's why it takes so long for me to build this, because I don't have all that money just sitting around. Like, it's little investments here and there to like add new things. Every time I buy, you know, a new bottle of glue, that's another $6, you know. So so yeah, it's little things like that just add up over the course of years. Let's start eating some of this. Oh, Maritime Review. No, I didn't. To be honest, I don't have the money for them anyway, so I felt like I didn't want to do any window shopping if it was going to make me feel like I couldn't buy buy one. Mean Metal says, what food would lower class passengers be served? It really depends on what year you're talking about. You know, economies and life and classism changed with each decade. It would really depend on, like, what ship, what ocean line, you know, even, and what decade you're talking about, and what class you're talking about. Ryan says, in your opinion, what is your favorite deck of RMS Queen Mary present day? Well, actually, that's very easy because from 1936 to now, it's always would have been Promenade deck. Promenade deck is where everything is at. You know, all the most beautiful spaces on the ship are all on Promenade deck. So, yeah. And that's like that for most ships. Like, if you had asked me Titanic, if you had asked me Mauretania, if you had asked me, you know, all the best spaces on those ships were always on the promenade decks. RMS Nerd says, also would like to share, I recently visited the USS Iowa, and it was amazing. Also had a chance to buy a wooden piece of the deck. They are constantly remodeling, and I thought it was a great souvenir. Oh, awesome. Octarian says, I think if Long Beach bought RMS Queen Elizabeth, it would probably still catch on fire before it opened. No, I don't think so, because it didn't catch on fire. It was set on fire. And it was set on fire, and most people believe it was by anti-imperialist arsonists. So, you know, it was people who lived in Hong Kong who didn't like, you know, the idea that Britain, you know, once controlled Hong Kong, and here they are sending over their British ship, you know, or at least that's how their perspective was. So there's no guarantee, there's no, like, proof that it was them, but a lot of people believe it was anti-imperialist arsonists that were on board who set the ship on fire. There are no people like that in United States or California, even less. Nobody would purposely set the ship on fire like that. Like, we don't have an ongoing thing against the British, you know. So if the Queen Elizabeth had been sent to California, and heck, she was in Long Beach for 2 years, she was perfectly fine. Nobody was purposefully setting fires on the ship. So, no, I don't think it would have happened that way. Sarah says, oh my god, I'm done with all the tax returns who dropped off before October 1st. Woohoo, now I can start on the 13 people who dropped off after. Cries. Oh my gosh. I do not envy you, Sarah, but good luck. Pacific says, unfortunately, I have to leave for a mock trial meeting on Zoom. Enjoy the rest of your tea. Oh my goodness, well, good luck on that. Thank you so much for telling me to enjoy the rest of my tea. Maritime Review says, have you ever visited the eastern part of the U.S.? Kinda. You know, I've been to Florida, I've been to South Carolina, I've been to Georgia. So I've been in the South, you know, the eastern South, you know. But I've never been northeast. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I ever have. No, I've never been to the northeast. All right. Let's have more of this tea. It's been an hour, you guys. I haven't even been able to drink my tea yet. Oh, boy. Oh, yeah, I don't like this in-between weather. I don't like the weather where it's too warm to have your air conditioning on, and it's too cool to, you know, I don't know, it's... Wait, no. I meant that the opposite way. It's too cool for the air conditioning to be on, but too warm to not go without it, you know what I mean? I hate that in-between weather. I like it cold up here, you know? Yeah. Octarian. Yeah, I heard about that actually. That the Olympic was there just before the explosion. Spirit of Roanoke says, hey, also Alex, what do you think of the streamlined locomotives? Will you ever invest in one? I'm not a fan of locomotives after the year 1900, so, you know, to me, all just the same. I'm not really interested. Will I ever invest in one? I live in an apartment. I don't really have room for a streamlined locomotive, even if I was a millionaire who could invest in one. So, yeah. Maritime Review says, would you recommend you visited Pennsylvania or the Midwest? Wait, hold on. Would recommend you visited Pennsylvania or the Midwest. There are a lot of small towns that are centralized by railroads, and like small town I grew up in. Cool. Well, we'll see. I might want to visit New York, but I'll be honest, there's a few places in this world that I don't really have a desire to visit, you know, like, I don't know, like, I would want to visit certain places in the U.S., big cities like New York, and New Orleans. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the future, if my channel's really popular and I'm able to travel more, then I'll have more places to go. But I suppose maybe because I have like a priority list in my head of like where I want to see first, then the other places don't matter to me as much. But maybe after those are kind of ticked off the list. But maybe after those are already ticked off the list, maybe I'll have a desire to see like much more places, you know. But yeah. Oh, Roanoke says, talking about the model for your railroad. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, I mean, no, I probably wouldn't buy one, but even if I could, it wouldn't fit on the layout because, you know, this is O scale, it's ON30, so it wouldn't fit because I could probably buy one in HO scale, but then it wouldn't look right with the O scale layout. And then if I bought one in O scale, it wouldn't fit on the tracks because the tracks are HO scale, so it wouldn't really work. And the layout is based in the years 1890 through 1900. So that's what this is. So I would say 1895 is what this layout is based on. So it wouldn't work with the layout, yeah. Fallon Wells says, Alex, I did a Google document about people who inspire you. I wrote about you. Oh my gosh, that's so nice of you to say that I inspired you. Maritime Review says, New York is not that great. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't hold big cities up to glamour. I'm interested in the big cities because of very specific places I want to visit. So, you know, like Seattle, for instance. I like Seattle. But, I mean, most of Seattle is not really, like, all that amazing. You know, it's not all sparkly and beautiful and wonderful. Like, you know, there are things there that I want to see and experience and stuff. And so that's kind of what I mean by wanting to visit the big cities, like New York, because there's places in New York I really want to see. So my dad went to New York, and, you know, he told me all about it, and, you know, and I wanted to go to the places that he went. You know, he had a really good time there. Yeah, the turns on the layout are tight, but again, that's not really the problem. You know, if it was an HO scale, it would be fine with the turns on the layout, because this is really broad turns. But that's not the problem. The problem is the scale. It wouldn't fit with the scale of the layout, because the layout is not HO scale, it's ON30. And so even if I bought an O scale locomotive, it still wouldn't fit with the layout, because it's not the right time frame and it's not the right scale. So it's just, yeah, it just wouldn't work on so many levels. Maritime View says, how would people from Edwardian era react to the world of today? I know there isn't an exact answer. We're just curious of how they would react. They'd probably think that we live in, like, a strange, like, not necessarily magic. They know what technology is when they look at it, but I suppose all of it would be very overwhelming to them. Yeah, I mean, the world would be unrecognizable to them in a certain way. Like, you know, obviously, like, you know, if they went to New York and they saw the Empire State Building, they'd know what that is. Well, no. For their Edwardian era, no, they wouldn't. No, yeah, okay, never mind. I go back on what I said. Yeah, the whole world would be unrecognizable to them. Everything down to visiting someone's apartment like mine. They wouldn't really understand anything about the apartment. It would be like, yeah, it would be like a whole different world. So, yeah, I imagine that they would just be completely overwhelmed and would probably have some kind of, like, you know, psychotic crisis of some kind. Fallon Will says, also pick 5 ships you would scrap. No, I'm not going to do that. Because that's basically just asking me to insult my viewers. I'm not going to do that. RMS Nerd says, New Orleans is a great place to visit. I recommend the World War II Museum. You can spend hours and hours there, and there is food, and see the mighty Mississippi, the people, the ambiance. Yeah, we plan to spend a whole day at the World War II Museum when we go. Jeffrey Charles says, hi Alex, any thoughts on Disney raising prices again? I don't have any thoughts on it, to be honest. It's the same as I always say, which is that Disney raises prices, you know. I think a lot of people I understand people are upset with how expensive the parks are. I am too. You know, I have been priced out of the parks. I literally cannot visit them because they are too expensive. But that being said, having worked for the company myself, I know that it wasn't done as just some money-grabbing move. They do it because the parks are so busy, they are overwhelmed with the visitors that come. So when you have, you know, not enough supply and too much demand, you have to raise the prices of what you're supplying in order to lower the demand. And, you know, yeah, that prices people out, but that's how things work. That's how, you know, that's how capitalism works. You have to raise the prices of something when there's way too much demand. Some people have said, why don't you just close the gates of the park? Well, we've seen that. You know, I've seen that personally. You know, I worked at Disneyland, you know, on a New Year's Eve night. I was there since the afternoon that day, and because it was a long shift. I was working a 12-hour shift because they were really understaffed that day. And I was in guest relations. I was working out front of the park. And they had to close the gates of the park several times that day because the park was overcrowded. And whenever they closed the gates, they were basically telling people, we can't guarantee you're going to be able to get in. These are people who already purchased their tickets, you know, and so there was no guarantee that they would be refunded either. So, you know, so people who were blocked out of the park that day, they were upset. Some of them had traveled hundreds of miles on a road trip, spending thousands of dollars to come to Disneyland, only to find out they couldn't enter the park. So, you know, would you rather spend thousands of dollars and suddenly find out that the park is so full you have to be turned away at the gates and then you never enter the park? Or would you rather just be priced out while you're still sitting at home and going, can't afford to go in the park, not going to make the trip? You know, I would personally pick this option than the other option. That being said, their reservation system kind of makes that still an issue because you can spend all your money to go on vacation and maybe you can't get a reservation to get in the park. So the reservation system is a whole different issue, which itself I don't like. But you know, I'm not gonna get mad at Disney for raising prices on a park that everybody wants to visit. So, Sarah says, Seattle's mostly traffic, but go on a ferry and see the waterfront for sure. Pike Place Market, if that interests you. I hate driving in Seattle, though, and parking. Yeah, I went to Seattle last winter. My father came to visit, and so he and I went up to Seattle. We got to do a lot of cool stuff. I mean, that's when I filmed that video of me on the monorail. So there was a lot of cool stuff I wanted to see, but we got there because you're right about the traffic was insane. The traffic was worse than I've even seen in LA, and that's saying something because I grew up in the LA area. So that was really bad. We were in traffic for 3 hours just to get into the city. That was ridiculous. It was 3.5 hours, actually, to be totally honest. 3.5 hours of traffic just to get into Seattle. And by the time we got into Seattle, the sun had already set. Like, we were hoping to get there in the afternoon and kind of hang out. You know, it was going to be rainy, but that was fine with us. You know, we were all, you know, we had our rain gear and everything. We went to Pike's Place first, and we walked around, but it was already nighttime, and, you know, you couldn't really see much of the views because the sun was down, and, but, you know, the market was nice. But this was last year, so everybody still was wearing face masks and coverings, and you had to prove that you've been, you know, inoculated, you know, so that way you could eat at the restaurants and stuff like that. It was kind of frustrating because I left my card at home, so and I didn't have a picture of it, so I couldn't eat at any of the restaurants. It was really ridiculous. But we went on the monorail at night. But I'll tell you, the greatest thing of that night, though, was walking around downtown at night with all the Christmas lights everywhere. It was so beautiful. And then me and my dad, we were walking across the street, and they had one of those, like, department store shop windows. Very big corner of the building was reserved for that. And I realized, I'm like, that's Santa Claus sitting in there. Because the corner of the building, they used a huge corner to make it look like Santa's workshop. And then in there, all by himself, was Santa Claus, just kind of sitting, and he was waving at anybody that noticed he was there. But most people didn't even notice that was him. Like, I think some people, I heard like one person asking him, like, is that a mannequin? You know, like, but it was Santa Claus. And so my dad and I, we were out there in the cold, you know, we're like waving at Santa, you know, and then he came over to the window, and then we took a selfie with him. So he was at the window, and then we're like in front, and we just like take a selfie with him. That was really cool. But, you know, my dad and I were both wearing our masks, so it didn't make for a good photo. But yeah, that was kind of a special moment because, you know, Santa was like sitting like against the wall, so he didn't have to walk over and take a picture with us, but he did, and that was really nice. So Yeah, Seattle's really beautiful. Like, I like Portland, but I mean, come on, Seattle's way better than Portland by a lot. I would love if Portland tried to, like, you know, compete with it a little bit and get some tourism going. You know, that'd be great. But yeah, Seattle was really cool. I want to go back during the daytime to, you know, really enjoy it. Octarian says, I think you missed my comment. I might have. No, I saw your comment. There's really nothing for me to say, because you asked if Titanic and Britannic never sank. Imagine seeing the Olympic class at dock being turned back into passenger ships after the war. I didn't have anything to add to that, so I didn't answer it. But yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to see. But I can't answer everybody's comments, everybody. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it as best I can. But if you're just gonna say something, you know, like, oh, this would be cool, then, you know, I'll nod my head or something, and then I'll try to, like, catch up with the rest of the comments. Adam says, have you ever heard of the miniature Wonderland in Hamburg, Germany? If so, do you plan to visit it during your European adventures? I know of a miniature park. It's probably the same one in Germany. I don't know if it's in Hamburg, but I do know of one. But no, we don't have time to go anywhere besides Paris in Europe. So, we'll mostly be traveling around the UK, and then we'll stop in Paris for like maybe a week, because we have a few things to do in the Paris area. But no, we don't have time to venture out of France. So, especially not anywhere outside of the Paris metropolitan area. So, Dino says, when I was a kid, we would put a Lionel train set around the Christmas tree and let it run all night on Christmas Eve. At least until it caught the tree on fire. It caught the tree on fire? Oh my gosh. Okay. I might need to, yeah. I'm gonna heat up my tea a little bit because everything got cold, so. Octarian says, what is your opinion on Queen Anne? I don't really like it. It's too modern for my taste. I just don't like it. It feels like I'm going to, like, a really fancy, like, you know, hospital. I'm not even kidding. There is a hospital 5 miles from where I am that looks like the interior of Queen Anne. I'm not joking. So yeah, I've been to that hospital. Not for anything serious, but yeah, and all I could think of when I was looking at it was, when I was looking at Queen Anne, was I was like, that looks like that hospital I was just at. So yeah, I don't like the interior of Queen Anne. It literally looks like a hospital. I don't like it. A fancy hospital, that is. Fallon Will says, Alex, pick 5 ships you don't like their design. No, I'm not going to do that. Again, that would insult my viewers, because some people really like certain ocean liners, and I have tried to express in the past ocean liners that I thought were my least favorite, and people literally bit my head off for doing that, so I'm not going to do that again. Gump Happen says, do you think the new Disney management will invest in creating new parks, seeing how the demand is so high? You know, I would love for them to do that. I've always said that Disney should build a resort in Texas. You know, Texas is the next best place with good year-round weather, generally, for building a theme park. You know, Disney is not interested in building new parks in the U.S. They're interested in just squeezing as much money as they can out of the people that do visit their parks. So yeah, I wish that they would. I wish that they would. Ooh, all the comments are shifting up. Well, first, let me say thank you to Dino DeSantis. There's an arrow in front of your comment. I can't read. There we go. Your chats are fun. Thank you so much, Dino. There was like an arrow that kept popping up in front of your comment, so I couldn't read it. I was like, what in the world? All right. Maritime View says, have you heard of Alex Mendham and his orchestra? Basically a band that recreates music from the 1920s to 1930s. They also reorchestrated the Queen of the Seas song. Oh, no, I haven't heard of that. No, I haven't heard of Alex or his band. Octarian says, if the Poseidon ship was real, I think the disaster would be called a New Year Hell. Oh, that's right, because it took place during New Year's, right? I forgot about that. Let me just... First to... That's hot. Okay. I'm just gonna reheat the teacup and then the tea by adding some more hot water. It dilutes it a bit, but you know, I like to have warm tea. I'll just give that a stir. Spirit says, well, Alex, amazing stream. Hope you finish your tea. I have videos to edit. I have a channel I have to operate, even if it only has 20 subs. But I'm thankful, and thanks for making me feel better. You're welcome, Spirit. And thank you for joining me. Sarah says, oh, I definitely agree. Traffic in Seattle is worse than LA. I live about 45 minutes south of Seattle, closer to Tacoma, in the foothills of Mount Rainier. Much prettier. Wow, you live in the foothills of Mount Rainier. That's pretty cool. I've heard so many horror stories of like Mount Rainier like going off and destroying Seattle, so I'd be so scared about living near Mount Rainier. Alright, let me dump out this water. Ooh, that's hot. As it should be anyway, because the... Alright, let's see if I can get to any more comments. Dino says, do you have a preference on doing a transatlantic voyage east to west or west to east? No preference. I'm going to be doing both anyway, so, you know, I'll be doing one from New York to Southampton, and then the other one will be Southampton back to New York. So I don't really have a preference. My friend did, he would prefer to do the one from Southampton to New York, so he can see the Statue of Liberty as they come back into New York. But I was telling him, I was like, yeah, but you're like 2 or 3 miles away from the Statue of Liberty. Like, it's so tiny, you know, like it's not like it, you know, it would have been in the 30s, for instance, when the Queen Mary would pass by the Statue of Liberty. At least it was much closer, so you could see it easier. But today you don't get that kind of view. But yeah, I don't have a preference. I just want to be on the ship. Wolfpack says, what is your favorite White Star Line ship? Mine is the Oceanic 2. That's my favorite White Star Line ship. Oh wait, he says ships that weren't built count? That weren't built count? I definitely don't know what that means. Thomas Brooks says, hello Alex, I finally made it back to a stream. I've been busy with work recently and haven't been able to make it much. That's alright, but I'm glad to have you back. Hello Daniel, glad to see you again. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Fallon. Oh my gosh. I've heard of Burt Lancaster, but I haven't seen the 1964 movie, The Train. Octarian says, if the Great Depression never happened, then would White Star Line still be around? Those are two different questions, really. Because would the White Star Line have been around after the Depression if the Depression never happened? Yes. Would it still be around today? Well, that's a different question because there's two different events that happened in the past. One was the Depression, which killed off some ocean line companies like White Star Line because they merged with Cunard. But then there was a second event, which was the age of the airline. And the age of the airline killed most of the rest of the ocean line business. So would it be around today? No, but that's not because of the Depression. It wouldn't be around because of the jet age. So yeah, two different situations have two different outcomes. Hello, Spyro. Sarah says, Mount Rainier is pretty dormant, but we do have Lahar warning sirens. They test monthly. I'm in the hills about 800 feet up a city called Bonnie Lake, and so I wouldn't be completely covered in mud flow. Well, that's good. I would worry for you, though. All I can picture is Mount Rainier is kind of like that, what's that movie from the 1990s? Dante's Peak. I just pictured Dante's Peak. Spirit asks, what would happen if Thomas Andrews didn't die on Titanic and the captain didn't die? I don't know. I don't know what their life would have influenced after the sinking, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it would have changed or altered history, because maybe I just don't know enough about it. So yeah, I don't know. Maritime Review says, what's your opinion on Italy? You know, one day I would like to visit Italy, but I don't have any plans to visit Italy anytime soon. I might, if I do visit Italy, it'd definitely be Rome, might be, Venice as well. Florence. Florence sounds like another nice place to go. Hello, Spyro. Daniel says, Alex, would you rather be on a Disney cruise or a Cunard cruise? I'd rather be on a Cunard cruise. That being said, I don't want to be on a Cunard cruise. Fallon Will says, Alex, what happened to the SS France? Which one? Ryan says, what is your favorite Italian liner besides the SS Rex? If you don't know any others, just say that. It won't bother me. I don't know any others besides SS Rex and its companionship, the... I don't remember the name of the companionship. So yeah, I don't know any others. Sarah says, Dante's Peak, it's still like an hour drive to get up to Mount Rainier Park. I think I'm technically closer to Seattle as the crow flies. Yeah. That definitely tastes watered down. But it's warm, so at least that's fine. SS France 1 and 2. I don't know. See, I figured if you knew the difference between SS France 1 and SS France 2, you'd know what happened to them. You'd know whether one was scrapped or one was sunk. I do know that SS France 2 had become the SS Norway. It was operated by a cruise line. It had technical difficulties, but I think, ultimately probably ended up in a scrapyard. I don't know about the first SS France. That probably also ended up in a scrapyard. But I figured if you knew the difference between 1 and 2, you'd also know what happened to them. Spyro says, if you could take a free trip on any ocean liner for first class and have absolutely every perk, what ocean liner would you sail on? Huh. That would be the Queen Mary. Yeah, it's a really easy answer just because, well, because everybody always asks me, what ocean liner this, what ocean liner that, what ocean liner this? And the answer is always Queen Mary, because it's my favorite, you know, Queen Mary is my favorite. And if it wasn't Queen Mary, it'd be Queen Elizabeth. And if it wasn't Queen Elizabeth, it'd be RMS Mauretania. And if it wasn't RMS Mauretania, it would be, you know, like... you know, oceanic. But basically, like, I have a video that talks about my top 10 favorite ocean liners, and pretty much any question you could ask me, it would just go down that list. It would go from number 1 down to number 10. Because no matter what, I still see it in that order, you know? Yeah. Daniel, is the Scarlet Lady the one that has, like, the lips on it with the eyes? I think that's a pretty ugly ship. Magical Cat. I actually don't have a favorite, like, Italian line vessel. It would have to be SS Rex if there was one. But the reason why is because I don't really know enough of them to have a favorite. It's not really fair, I guess, for me to say SS Rex, because SS Rex is literally the only one I know anything about. So, yeah, it wouldn't be fair for me to call it my favorite if it's the only one I know of. Gump says, will you still be uploading the edited versions of your train builds to your other channel, Alex Adner? No, the edited versions will be on this channel. So this channel is the edited versions. The live streams are on the other channel, Alex Adner. So the live streams are where you'll be able to see me build stuff live, if I do the stream. But yeah, the edited versions will be on this channel, because this channel has way more subscribers, so more people would be able to see it, you know? Rebel says, hey Alex, how do you think the Nomadic in Belfast would do if she did tours in today's time? What? What kind of tours? Like walkthrough tours? Because they do walkthrough tours. I'm not sure. You'll have to be more specific. Sylvia Reed says, what's the name on your other channel? My other channel is Alex Adner, spelled A-D-N-E-R. Spyro says, what is your number one most favorite thing about the RMS Queen Mary? Oh boy, that's a tough one. Let me think. Is it fair to say Art Deco? I feel like that's my favorite thing about the RMS Queen Mary, is its Art Deco. Yeah. I hope that's a fair answer. Thomas. Yeah, I have some Titanic books on my wish list. There's one book that, it's a 2-part book, so there's 2 books in the series. I don't think it's on a Sea of Glass, but it might be. But it looked really interesting. and I thought I'd buy it, but I have like literally like a ton of books I have to get through. So I haven't bought any Titanic books because there are so many other books I have to read first. I can't read that fast. Everybody wants me to make more and more videos about other ocean liners, but I have to read the books first. I don't have time to read books. I'm making videos. And I don't have time to make videos because I'm doing live streams. Kevin says, have you ever heard of the SS Andrea Doria? Yeah, I have. Daniel says, hey Alex, in my high school wood shop class, I made a small Edwardian-style coast ship. I named the SS Guadalajara because that's where the capital of parents' home state is, Jalisco, Mexico. Awesome. Spyro says, I was talking about the interior rooms of the RMS Queen Mary, but that works too. I mean, the interior rooms are made with Art Deco style. Rebel says, I think they're called charters, where they take tourists and they sail around for a few miles. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, charters. Yeah, I think SS Nomadic would be successful as a chartered ship. Yeah, I think so. It couldn't go very far because it was designed to like travel within a harbor, not like on an open sea. So, but I think it could if it went a very short distance. You know, there's lots of stuff in the UK that does, like the PS Waverley, for instance. It goes from London to Glasgow? London to Glasgow? That's a long distance. So, yeah, and that one's a successful ship. I really want to see the PS Waverley. I'm kind of hoping that when I'm in London, PS Waverley will be there. So I can kind of like at least walk up to it, if not go on board and kind of check it out. I'd love to even take a voyage on PS Waverley, but I don't know if that'll work. But yeah, I hope I see PS Waverley in London, because there's no way I'm going to be able to go to Glasgow to see it. Spirit says, also, Alex, it's not O scale or O gauge, it's HO scale. I'm just saying, LOL, you keep pronouncing it as that. What do you mean? What are we talking about? Because I hope you know HO scale is different from O scale, which is different from, you know, O gauge. Yeah, like those are three different things. They're not like, I'm not like confusing them with the same thing. So if you could be more specific, then we can talk about it. But Fallon says, Alex, if you could, would you make a ship company? No, I wouldn't. No. Maritime View says, hey Alex, I also used to 3D model custom fictional ships on SketchUp based on Lusitania and other Great Lakes ships. Would like to get back into 3D modeling, but I feel like it doesn't pay off. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about 3D modeling. It is technology beyond my comprehension. Spirit says, you keep saying it's O scale when it's not. You keep pronouncing it. Yeah, this layout is in O scale. It's not HO scale, it's O scale. Yeah, that's why I keep saying O scale, because it's not HO, this is O, the whole thing is O scale, but it's ON30, because that's how I designed it. So it's O scale, narrow gauge 30. So, but yeah, it is O scale. Ryan says, what's your favorite ocean liner story? Not books. Oh, favorite ocean liner story. I'm guessing you mean like the history of a certain ocean liner? I mean, it would have to be the Queen Mary. Yeah. Lori Jean Carlson is here. Hey there, Lori. Been a while. Daniel says, hey, Alex, to be honest, I don't read books because I'm I'm lazy, but it's because not many books interest me. I'm a fan of books about trains and ships, which unfortunately there aren't a lot. And the ones that are, series. Oh, you mean a book series. I see. Daniel, yeah, I mean, I used to read a lot of, like, novels and various other, like, things. A lot of fiction. I usually like a lot of fiction. But, you know, now that I'm older, like, and I have this YouTube channel, I never really have time to read books that are fiction. Now, all my time when I do read is spent reading about ocean liners. So, yeah, it does kind of suck because I do miss reading fiction novels. But the only time I have to read is reading ocean liner books for my YouTube channel. So, I do like reading those books, but, you know, sometimes I really crave reading something creative, you know? Spirit says, oh, okay, because those are the bigger locos. When you said that, it made me understand. Yeah, this is ON30 scale, so it's a narrow gauge system. So it's O scale, but it runs on HO scale tracks. Spyro says, did you get the latest email I sent you, including the one about the RMS Queen Elizabeth cross-section? Was that you that sent it, or was that somebody else? Well, anyway, I did receive a cross-section about Queen Elizabeth, and I asked you a question, but you didn't respond. Yeah. Yeah, if that was you, yeah, I responded to you, but you didn't respond back. Thomas Brooks says, I saw the video that Part-Time Explorer made about the Queen Mary lifeboats, and when I saw the lifeboats being thrown around, it hurt a little inside. It did. It hurt me too inside when I saw it back in April and March. But, you know, we did what we could back then. We called up the city. We got them to save 5 of them, but we couldn't get them to save the rest. But also something that Part-Time Explorer said in his video was that the reason why they were being scrapped was because nobody could give Long Beach a realistic plan, like a realistic, like, you know, game plan for, like, how to handle everything. That's not exactly the truth. The truth is, and it's probably because he read it from the online newspapers and stuff, and the newspapers aren't telling the truth. The truth was that people were submitting plans, but the thing was that the city of Long Beach at the time didn't give anybody enough time to react. They gave everybody 30 days. For anybody that knows how museums work, it usually takes them a whole year to raise money and create a plan for how to acquire a large artifact like a lifeboat. Those lifeboats are 12 feet wide, 36 feet long, and 5 feet tall. They are massive, and they require all kinds of permits for moving them on roads. That kind of planning takes a whole year to do. A whole year. They gave everybody 30 days to do it. And so immediately all the organizations that were interested were like, well, we can't do it. You know, that's too... But people were saying, you know, we might be able to do it in 6 months, but 30 days is not enough. So, you know, it was QMI Restore the Queen, you know, back when I was still working with them. You know, we called up the city. We're like, hey, you got to extend this time. There's not enough time for museums to acquire these things because there were lots of parties interested, and they had the people who could make those plans happen. And the city said, okay, we'll extend the time. They extended it another 30 days. So a grand total of 60 days. But like I said, at the very minimum, it takes these organizations 6 months, not 60 days. So, there was literally no time for anybody to react. There was no time at all, and so, QMI submitted a plan to save a lifeboat, but, again, with only 60 days notice, there was only so much we could guarantee that we could do for a lifeboat. So the city was like, well, okay, well, this plan is not enough. It doesn't meet the requirements. Of course not, because we only had 60 days to make the arrangements. And again, you need at least 6 months to make those arrangements. So there was no hope for anybody. Nobody got a chance to save a lifeboat. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily that nobody could meet, Long Beach's requirements. It was that Long Beach didn't give people the time to meet the requirements. But there was like huge companies and huge museums even that wanted to preserve lifeboats. There was museums in the UK that thought of maybe transporting a lifeboat. That was quickly, they quickly just gave up on that because there wasn't enough time. And then there was a company in Halifax, Nova Scotia that was genuinely interested in transporting one lifeboat up to Halifax to be at the Cunard dock in Halifax. They gave up too, because there just wasn't enough time. They needed at least 6 months to work on that project, and they were given 60 days, and it just wasn't enough time, so they gave up. So the last organization to remain on their list of interest was QMI, and QMI didn't have enough time to put together a solid plan that met the city's requirements. So, let's see. Back to questions. Maritime Review says, if I did get back into 3D modeling ocean liners, it would be an Art Deco liner from the 1930s. That's pretty cool. If I had that kind of skill and time, I would want to make one of the Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. I really want to have models of those, but the only people who could do it in a satisfactory way is Titanic Honor and Glory, and even then, like, they were promising on selling a Queen Mary model, and then they never did. Celia says, when are you planning to go to England? It's not on the books yet, because of the fact... My nose is so itchy for some reason. It's not on the books yet because of the fact that I don't have enough money. So I have a fundraiser going for people who want to donate towards that trip, because the trip will be for filming videos for the channel. So it'll be a lot more content, a lot more, like, a broader range of content to bring to the channel. So if anybody wants to donate towards that, the link is in the description below, and that will take you to my GoFundMe page, and that money that is being reserved is only for the trip to the UK. I have also so far matched that money with my own dollar for dollar. So there's been technically $2,000 saved towards the trip, but there needs to be a total of $8,000 saved. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. So whenever I have the money, that's when I can start making the plans, because you need to book the ship a whole year in advance, basically. So, Ryan says, I have drawn pictures of RMS Queen Mary, 2 drawings, RMS Lusitania, SS Normandy, and the SS United States. Really fun, but hard. Yeah, I bet. I bet it's really difficult. Spirit says, I'm so sorry about randomly bringing back the trains when you're talking about the ships, if that annoyed you. No, it doesn't annoy me. That's what this live stream is about. It's about talking about all of our interests when it comes to ships, trains, when it comes to, history in general, Disneyland. Like, that's what this live stream is about, is talking about all kinds of topics. Spyro says, oh, I'm so sorry about that. You can ask me the question via the stream, and I'll answer it in the stream. If I remember it. I think I was asking you, because you said you were going to send me photographs of a ship you were designing. But then all you sent me was 27 emails, by the way. I was really surprised by that. 27 emails. But anyway, 27 emails of blueprints on the Queen Mary. And I thought that was weird, because you said you were going to send me blueprints of a ship you were designing. So yeah, but... And then for the second one, you sent me a cross-section of the Queen Elizabeth one. And I said that I wasn't sure, like, what you wanted from me on that one. Because Like, I have blueprints of the Queen Elizabeth. I have cross-sections of the Queen Elizabeth. But I wasn't sure, like, were you wanting to get, like a watertight compartment cross-section like I gave you for the Queen Mary one? Because I haven't made one yet. That's the reason why I haven't given you one, is because I haven't made one yet. But yeah, I was really confused about your various emails because I didn't know why you were sending me all this stuff. Daniel says, "Hey Alex, in the movie Titanic, did Rose die, or was the ending scene a dream?" It was her death. Yeah, it was her death. Which is funny, because I always find it funny that Rose got married after Titanic sank. But in her death, she went back to meet Jack, not her ex-husband. Not her, her former... Like, that was kind of weird. Like, can you imagine, like, her husband in the crowd going, like, like, ready to receive her, and then she just goes past him straight to Jack? He's like, wait, who's he? Fallon Will says, Alex, is Queen Mary getting scrapped? Don't worry, she's not getting scrapped at all. Since February, she's been undergoing repairs. So thankfully, the grand old lady is getting repaired, and she will open sometime late this year. So maybe November, possibly December, she will reopen. She is doing just fine. Jimmy says, hello Alex, how's your day? My day is going really well. I gotta get going soon because I'm gonna be having dinner at my sister's house later. Rebel says, have you ever played Roblox? No, I haven't played Roblox. If so, have you heard of Dynamic Ship Simulator 3? No. I play that game and I am the captain of SS Traffic. Would you consider checking out this game? I'm really not into games. So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to get your hopes up and be like, oh yeah, sure, and then I don't show up. Like, I'll just be totally honest with you. I'm not interested in games. I'm not a gamer. Plus, I really don't have the time, to be totally honest. I spend all my time working on videos and stuff for the channel. I don't have very much free time to myself. Spyro says, okay, so Alex, I understand what you're saying, but my ship is designed based off of the Queen Mary. Oh, I see. So it's going to be like a replica of the Queen Mary. Well, anyway, yeah, I have all the stuff you sent me. I already had it. Jimmy says, I had a question. Would you go to a ship/Titanic/Queen Mary museum if it would be built in your area? And would you make a video on it? Oh, if there was, I would love to. Yeah, like if there was some kind of museum based on an ocean liner and it was up here near Portland, I would definitely go to it. Unfortunately, there aren't any. There's a museum that is on a steamboat. That museum has been closed for a while. I have a suspicion it's not going to reopen. But that's about it. There's no, like, maritime museums up here. So, yeah. There might be a maritime museum in Seattle. I've never looked. There might be one in Seattle. If there is one in Seattle, I'll try to visit it. Seattle's easier for me to get to because it's... I mean, if there was no traffic, it's technically a 3-hour drive away. But last time it was like 6.5-hour drive because of the 3.5 hours of traffic. But yeah, Seattle's technically closer to me, and if there was more stuff there, I'd go there. Oh, Spyro said, I also didn't know. I just didn't know how to attach multiple different images to a single email. I just recently figured that out. I see. Yeah, I was really surprised. Like, all of a sudden I was getting beep, 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 and it was like 27 emails. I was like, whoa. I was like, why did this person send 27 emails? RMS Cunard says, do you recommend going to the Queen Mary? Absolutely. If the ship is open, but she's not open right now. She'll reopen later this year. But yeah, when the ship is open, I highly recommend anybody who's interested in going to the Queen Mary, definitely go. She is worth the visit. There is so much cool stuff. She's got a lot of original stuff on board. I know there's a lot of like locals and semi Queen Mary fans who will say, "Oh, well, they removed so much." Yeah, they removed a lot of stuff from the ship, but that doesn't mean it's most of the stuff. They just removed a great number of things from the ship, but don't worry about it. When you walk around the ship, you'll see how much is original. There is just so much original stuff left on the ship. She's still a beautiful ship, regardless of the things that they removed from the lower levels that you would have never been able to see anyway, because it's not part of the main hotel area anyway. So, but yeah, she's still got a lot of originality to her, and she's very beautiful. Definitely worth a visit, even if it's only for a day. So yeah, definitely. Lori says, it was raining in Anaheim yesterday. Yeah, I know. My friend Chris was at Disneyland yesterday, and he showed me some video footage. Sarah says, Alex, stop playing that war game even, and the railroading. No, I still play the war game on occasion when my friends are online. My friends like to play games occasionally, and that's really the only time I get to hang out with my friends is when we play games. So, I still play the war game, but I don't live stream it anymore because I was only getting like 3 people on the live streams, and I was like, well, is it really worth it, But yeah. If Queen Mary, QE, the SS United States, and the Andrea Doria were to... which would you pick to be saved if any were being scrapped? You can pick 2. I would pick the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth for sure to save from being scrapped. That's just because those are my personal favorites. Daniel says, hey Alex, why was Queen Mary's funnel orange and now it is red? So Cunard had a color during Queen Mary's time that was called Cunard orange. And it was a little bit less red than the previous red they used on ships like Mauretania or even the, RMS Britannia. But anyway, there was a Cunard orange. I will say, though, that in context, that orange faded very easily in sunlight. So easily, in fact, that after each voyage, the ship would generally be touched up because, it rusts in little areas. They would touch up the whole ship after each voyage. But the funnels needed a complete repainting every couple of voyages. It was that bad. That's how quickly they faded in the sunlight. Because that particular orange just didn't last. So they were always repainting it. So after the ship had retired, you could definitely see in Long Beach, there was very rarely a time in the ship's history in Long Beach where that orange was maintained properly because it faded so quickly and they just didn't have the money to always repaint the funnels. So it was decided when the previous company, Urban Commons, was going to repaint the ship in 2018 through 2019. They were considering doing Cunard Orange or something close to it, but they remembered that the funnels would need to be repainted literally, every, 9 months to a year. That's how often it would need to be repainted. It would just fade too quickly. And often these companies don't have the money to do that. They can only repaint something once every couple of years. So they decided to go with red because the red would last longer. And indeed, 4 years later, those funnels are still very red. The third funnel was painted incorrectly, which is why the paint was damaged until recently. But nevertheless, the color did not fade very much. And so they were right. The red color didn't fade very much. So that's why. But even Cunard today doesn't use that original Cunard orange. Ever since the QE2 started receiving red on its funnel, they've decided to go with that particular red because it lasts longer. So if anybody's wondering why Cunard doesn't do the Cunard orange anymore, it's because it just doesn't last long enough. Yeah. Let's see. Everything moved. Sylvia Reed says she killed Jack. um, Daniel says, Alex, what are the thoughts about the animals that were extinct or are endangered? It has nothing to do with this channel, unfortunately. I don't want to answer that because it has nothing to do with my channel. Fallon Will says, Alex, do you play Titanic Honor and Glory? On occasion, and you'll actually see on my channel I've actually done live streams of it. So if you want, you can actually pull up one of those live streams that I've done of Titanic Honor and Glory. RMS Cunard says, do you have another channel? Yes. I'm not very active on it, but yes. It is called Alex Adner, spelled A-D-N-E-R. Rebel with a camera says, what is your thoughts on Olympics Grand Staircase being scrapped? It's the same as any beautiful ship getting scrapped, you know. It's disappointing, but I mean, I don't favor the Grand Staircase over any other part of the Olympic. I just think it's just sad in general. Yeah, we're gonna... Come on. There we go. Gonna hide some trolls from the channel. Sarah says, I'm leaving work. This is not a drill. See you all later. Leaving for Disneyland and driving down starting Tuesday night. No way. Oh my gosh. Well, have fun. Yeah. If Long Beach bought the RMS Queen Mary and RMS Queen Elizabeth, would the QE be near the Mary or next to it? I mean, if it did, I imagine it would be. But, you know, I don't think they would have ever done it. Yeah, that was me that got them off the channel. I just can't stand people who just, you know, they just want attention. Fallon Will says, Alex, sometimes I get confused with Titanic and Olympic because they're similar. Yeah, sometimes, especially in photographs, if I don't immediately spot the differences, I might not know which one I'm looking at. George, the paleo guy, says, how much watertight doors does Queen Mary have? She had approximately 38 watertight doors, I want to say. Yeah. If I remember correctly, about 38. Yeah. And they were all, well, some of them were hydraulic and some of them had an electric motor that turned a gear. Yeah. That's my answer for this one. Oh my gosh. Sounds like a exciting game, Daniel. Bauer says, didn't they save the Grand Staircase of the RMS Olympic? You know, I want to say they did because there's a hotel slash restaurant in the UK that has a recreation of the main lounge from the Olympic. So they literally took the main lounge from the Olympic and built a little restaurant out of it. And there's a little staircase that leads up into it. Not a big staircase, but a little staircase that leads up into it. And I could swear that's the banister of the Grand Staircase. So I do think they saved it, yeah. RMS Cunard says, why were most of the rooms on Queen Mary scrapped? Because most of the rooms on Queen Mary were third and second class rooms. And when you're staying in a hotel, most people don't want to stay in a third class room. There's no private bathroom attached to it. It's not spacious. It's very cramped. There's not much decoration in a third class room. So that's the reason why most of the rooms on the ship were scrapped. You have to remember that first class spaces, like first class staterooms, only make up a small portion of the amount of rooms on an ocean liner. So that's why most of the rooms were scrapped, is because, you know, a hotel guest is not going to want to stay in a tiny little cramped third class room, not unless they're like a devout ocean liner fan, you know. So if someone said to me, Alex, you know, like, would you want to stay in a third class room on the original Queen Mary? I might be like, maybe, if it was cheap. but I'm not going to spend like $300 a night to stay in a third class room on the Queen Mary. Like, no way. It's like sleeping in a closet. There's no decoration. There's no fanciness or anything. You don't even get your own bathroom. So there really was no point in keeping them. But that being said, there were third class rooms on B deck of the Queen Mary, which for most people that know the Queen Mary, that was also the same deck where there was first and second class rooms as well. So even though they were removing a lot of third class spaces from D deck, or I'm sorry, C and D decks, there was really no reason for them to completely gut the third class rooms on B deck, except for the fact that they wanted to add more hotel rooms to that deck. So it's unfortunate because room B340 that everybody knows is the most haunted room on the ship, which is totally fake, by the way. That room used to be a third class space. There were 2 third class staterooms in that area, and they turned it into one hotel room for the ship. But if they had left it as third class rooms, that would have been a great place to take people on tours and say, hey, look, this is an example of an actual third class room on the Queen Mary. You know, and then they also had second class rooms on that same deck all the way aft. They could have saved one of those and been like, look, here's an example of a second class room on the Queen Mary. Instead, they created little exhibits down in the museum. And the exhibits aren't even that accurate, you know, because, you know, they're exhibits, you know. So they just take artifacts and splice them together into something that looks somewhat like a second or third class space on the ship. So it's really unfortunate that they did things that way. Spyro says, what water type compartment doors were electric and what water type compartment doors were hydraulic? Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you which ones were which. I mean, all I know is that some were and some were electric, some were hydraulic. That's all I can tell you. I don't know. John Will says, Alex, is Titanic's grand staircase gone? Yes, it rotted away a long time ago. Maritime View says, just imagine if they had a game or VR walkthrough of any ocean liner such as Queen Mary in 1936 during her maiden voyage, or Mauretania in 1934 just before her retirement. That would be so amazing. I would love to see something like that. I have a VR headset, so that'd be great to see that. Ryan says, were any third or second class rooms saved, and why weren't the removed cabins turned into first class or regular ones like there is today? Well, that's what I was just talking about, was they didn't save any third or second class rooms on the Queen Mary. They were all either gutted or converted into hotel rooms for the ship. So only like a few of them were converted. The rest were just gutted and emptied and used as storage areas. But as for why weren't they turned into regular rooms like there is today? Well, they were. Like I said, room B340 is an example of that. Room B340 used to be 2 third-class rooms, and it became 1 hotel room. So they did convert some, but there was also... They had removed the third-class spaces on C deck, and the idea was when the ship was up and running and it was super successful, because they thought the museum on the ship, because there was going to be a huge museum of the sea, like a indoor theme park, basically. It was going to be huge. They thought that was going to be really successful, and so they thought that that one day they would go back into C deck and D deck and build hotel rooms into those decks. Well, the museum flopped. It was never that popular. So they never ended up needing to build hotel rooms into the rest of the ship. But yeah, there was a thought that eventually C deck, at least, would be converted into more hotel rooms for the ship. It just never happened. Sean Wells says, Alex, what is the plane next to Queen Mary called? The one that used to be there was the H-4 Hercules. It was built by Howard Hughes for World War II, although it never served any World War II duty, and it flew only once. And yeah, I have a video about it on my channel. It's called oh boy, what was it called? Spruce Goose, the largest flying boat. I think that's the title. I've changed the title so many times. I think it's called, just type in Spruce Goose on my channel and you'll see the video. In fact, I only posted the video a couple weeks ago, so it should be on my list of uploads. It's a really interesting video. Let's see. Yeah, Ryan, the B340 had a bathroom. The bathroom is still equipped with special effects that kind of make it seem like there is like a ghost turning on the faucet and stuff like that, and you know, the bathroom light will turn on or turn off. So it's still equipped with special effects like that. So it's not really a real haunted room. John says, do you think the Queen Mary would be more successful if she was in Southampton and had her original furniture and fittings? I honestly really don't know. It really depends. I mean, maybe, but at the same, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that because I really don't know what tourism is like in Southampton. Queen Mary will be very successful in a place that has a lot of tourism. And one of the reasons why she's still around in Long Beach, I mean, granted, keep in mind, she could have been abandoned years ago and then scrapped a long time ago. But the reason why she's been around 55 years later is because Southern California is a very popular tourist attraction. So she's been kind of feeding off of that tourism all this time. I don't know what tourism is like in Southampton, so I couldn't tell you. Did Queen Mary ever visit Halifax? Yes, the Queen Mary did pick up and drop off Canadian troops in Halifax. Which voyages and what years they were, I couldn't specify, I don't know. But I do know that both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth did pick up and drop off troops in Halifax. Chris says, what do you think what do you think what kids would think about my floating home of RMS Britannic 2? They might think it's pretty cool, actually, yeah. Alex, there is a Titanic VR game. Yes, I know, I have it, but I don't play it that often. But yeah, I have it. RMS Cunard says, B340 is a rather nice room if I had to say so. You know, when it comes to a hotel room on a ship, B340 is a nice hotel room, actually. I've been inside of it, done a tour of it, and walked around, and in terms of hotel rooms, yeah, it's on par with a nice hotel room. I will say that. The Fat Hat says, is the reason why they are scrapping the lifeboats, is it because it's damaging to the overall structure of the ship? Yes, so I'll just try to quickly go over this because I do have to get going. But the davits on the ship don't just hold up the weight of the lifeboats. They also hold up the weight of the sun deck and transfer that weight onto the promenade deck below. And unfortunately, where the davits meet the promenade deck, they have corroded to the point where some aren't even touching the promenade deck anymore. So they've actually been transferring all that weight of the lifeboats on and the sun deck as well onto the side shell plating of the promenade deck, which is what's been leading to the side shell plating coming off of the promenade deck. So they recognize that as a problem, and so they removed most of the lifeboats to relieve extra weight off of that, because those lifeboats are made of steel, so they're quite heavy. And so, yeah, that's the reason why they removed them from the ship. Now, one day, they could put lighter weight replicas up there. That's always a possibility. But there's currently no plans to do so, because before they ever do that, they do have to fix the problem of the corroded davits right where the promenade deck is. They have to be repaired before they can add more weight back up there. So, let's see. Ryan says, what are some of the destinations RMS Queen Mary had gone to port during passenger service? During passenger service, she always went from New York to Cherbourg to Southampton, and then Southampton to Cherbourg to New York. So that's what she did during her peacetime voyages. Sylvia Reed says, I feel the same way. They should have kept some of the third class. It also could have been used for the authentic experience for those who want that. Exactly. Yeah, that would have been really great to have on the Queen Mary. Chris says, two of the favorite Cunard liners in the RMS is RMS Mauretania and Aquitania. Yeah, I can see that. You know, they're definitely both on my list of top 10s. RMS Cunard says, will you ever do a video on another Cunard liner like Caronia? Maybe not Caronia, but yes, other Cunard liners definitely, such as Carpathia and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely other Cunard liners. But again, I am starting from a position of nothing. I know nothing about any of these other ships. So I literally have to catch up to, like for instance, Mike Brady from Ocean Liner Designs, he probably has like at least a decade of experience of reading about these other ships. I don't know. I'm guessing he does because he seems really, really knowledgeable. So he probably has like a decade at least of experience of reading about other ships. And I know nothing. So it's going to take me a long time to learn about these ships and be able to make videos for you guys that are as accurate as I can be. So it does take, I will, ask for some patience on those other ships because, again, it's not as easy as just going to Wikipedia and then copying that down and making a video. Like, that would get me a lot of hate if I did that. I do have to actually put in the work to research the ships and then try to cross-reference things to make sure I have my information correct. Fallon says, Alex, did Queen Mary pass the Titanic wreck? Yes, Queen Mary did pass the Titanic wreck. Did it all the time because they used some of the same shipping route. So especially on the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary, they laid a wreath of red roses as they passed the area where Titanic sank. So that was kind of a cool little story that I like. Daniel says, hi Alex, what state is the worst to live in than California? I don't know. I don't want to make fun of another state. That would just be unfair. Ryan says, I can wait for the RMS Queen Mary final voyage video. I don't mean to pressure you, but if you can't do the video, I understand. Oh, I can do the video. It's just that, I have a huge, like, stress load of videos everybody wants me to make. Everybody's demanding me to make more ocean liner videos. Everybody's demanding me to make videos about this and that and this and that, and people are like, make this, make that, and I will admit, I'm really spread thin. Like, I'm like really spread thin. I'm trying to make videos for you guys, but it takes a long time. Like, again, it's not like I just go on Wikipedia and then copy and paste the information and make a video. Like, I actually have to put in the effort and do the research, and that takes time. It's like doing homework. It's like when you went to school and you came home and you did, like, 3 or 4 hours worth of homework, and it's just like that. Like, I have to do the homework and do the research and then cross-reference things. It takes a lot of time, and then I have to write it out, then I have to narrate it, and I have to edit the narration, then I have to make the video, put all the stuff together. I have to research to find the images, the videos, and other stuff, paintings even, of the various depictions of the stuff I want to show on my videos, compile that all into a video, edit the animations, make sure everything looks good, do the color grading, do the sound grading, do the audio mixing, and then and then I can make the video. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks per subject. So, to give you guys a good example, when I made a video, what was it? Well, to give you a good example, the first ever Queen Mary video I made that a year after I first started researching the Queen Mary. A whole year, exactly 12 months, because I didn't want to just throw out something that was ill-informed. It does take a long time to research this stuff, so that's why I ask for a lot of patience on that. Alright, so I'm going to have to get going, you guys, because it is time for me to go to my sister's house and, hang out with them. I was trying to end the live stream like 15 minutes ago, so sorry if I was rushing through all the comments. I was just trying to get through everything and just try to, finish the live stream. But anyway, you guys, I do have to get going now, so I will see you all later, but thank you all for joining me. What is today? Sunday, so Tuesday will be a random video. I don't know yet. It'll be some video will show up on Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that. Tea time will be on Wednesday. Friday will be a video about the vampires of the Ursuline Convent in New Orleans. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you all later. Bye-bye.